Hi everyone, my name's Gabby. I'm a fourth year student who just matched into PMR. I thought I'd make this video for, it's really targeted to third years applying to residency to kind of just give you some helpful tips. But if you're a M1 or M2 interested in the field, I'll also talk about it briefly. So physiatry is a very broad field, so it's hard to define, but we are trying to maximize a patient's function and independence. The two main fields that we're going to be treating are going to be neurological diseases and MSK disorders. So you have TBIs, SCIs, and then you have like sports medicine, etc. And then you can also have physiatrists working in inpatient, so like, acute rehabs. Then you have outpatient clinics. Then you have SNFs, skilled nursing facilities, LTACs, or you can be a solo private practice. All right, this is like the main part of the video, which is during your med school experience, for M1 and M2 year, you're really just going to be trying to get experience and exposure in PM&R. You want to shadow as much as you can. You want to gain as many mentors as you can. Connections is honestly so big in PM&R. So the more connections you have, the better you'll do during interviews. And residencies will just want you more. Starting or joining an interest group, joining AAPM&R, they have a great mentorship program. And then, going to things like conferences, doing research, or maybe doing like a summer internship. And then just consider journaling stories every time you think about why you really want to go into PM&R, because it'll be useful when you go into interviews. And above all else, do well in neuro and anatomy. For your M3 year, you want to do well in your clerkships. These evals really matter from building your application. PM&R wants well-rounded, but also very kind and empathetic people. So try to show that during your third year. And then consider attending AAPM&R. Not necessary. Honestly, in my opinion, not really that worth it. But conferences are always a option. And then definitely schedule aways. Usually it's about a minimum of 2 aways for PM&R applications to be considered competitive. During your fourth year, you want to start, your ERAS application. And I think that my biggest piece of advice to you is getting solid letters of rec. You want someone who can really reflect on your character, because PM&R wants a field where personality is really big. You want to have, your kindness and your humanity show through like these letter writers. So make sure you're really careful when choosing them. And then make your personal statement as soon as possible during the end of your third year. Work on it, rewrite it. Make it a story. Focus on an experience you had that made you want to go into PM&R, not so much what PM&R is, because they already know how great the field is. They're working in it. Submitting ERAS and then going through interviews. What I really wanted to talk about is this crazy thing here. So I'm going to get to that in a second. There's 2 kinds of paths that you can take when you're applying to residency programs. You can either go into an advanced path or a categorical path. And the difference between these 2 is that in the advanced path, you're going to be doing a year before you really start your PM&R program. So that can be either a transitional year is what they call it, or TY, or a prelim year. And transitional year, if I could best describe it, is almost like a 5th year of med school. They're considered more chill. And that's definitely something to consider. And then your prelim can be in like IM or surgery. You're really making the same amount in both residencies. So I prioritize transitional years for myself. And then after that first year, you would go into your advanced program. And then there's a categorical route where in this case, you're just going to go straight into PGY 1 year into your PM&R program and do all 4 years there. So PM&R is a total of 4 years, but you can either do an advanced path or a categorical path, which I found confusing when I was first starting, which is why I wanted to make this video. Okay, and then last thing that I want to mention is during your ERAS application, there's going to be a little confusing way to make your actual final rank list. So I just wanted to address that here because it was confusing for me and it might seem overwhelming at first, but basically the way it works is that you have a main list that contains the mixture of all your advanced and categorical programs. Like I said, those 2 tracks, but then you can also have something called supplemental lists that only will go into effect if you match at a advanced program. And what makes it a little more confusing is that you can have multiple supplemental lists, because depending on which advanced program you match at, you might have different preference on the order of those like years that you do before, so that avoids you having to move twice. And so, like, say here I put that an advanced in New York was like the top choice for me. And so for my supplemental list A, I had a transitional year in New York as my first choice, because that way I could only spend all 4 years in New York. But let's say that I drop down my rank list and I match my advanced program at number 4, but that's in PA. I might have a supplemental list B, which has a transitional year in PA as my number 1. That way, I wouldn't have to move twice and I could stay in the same region. So that was really what I wanted to address there. But my biggest advice to you is don't rush your application. Work really hard on it and really try to focus on what makes your application well-rounded and unique, what makes you stand out, and convey that through your personal statement. And also, have your letter writers reflect that in their letter. But try to come up with like some skills or attributes that just make you unique. Like, I am a fluent native speaker in Spanish. And so I kind of like worked with like PMR scholars in Spanish. I got like certifications. I translated all 4 years in med school. And, that's like something that is growing in PMR, since that there's already a minority in women. There's definitely a minority in Latina women. And so I think that really helped to bolster my application. So trying to find some kind of, whether it be like a skill. People loved that I also did a lot of artwork during med school too. So make sure you focus on your hobbies as well. It will give you something to talk about. And then getting as much PMR exposure as possible. Highly recommend joining AA PMR, like I said before, but also the PMR Reddit. And then there's a Discord for PMR residency. And then just resources wise, there's a textbook, Cucarillo or Bradham's. I don't know how many people are going to watch this because it's my first time ever making a video, but if you want it, I have them. So just let me know. But yeah, that's all for me.